and welcome to another episode of Searching for More. It's been a good week. Nahesu, how are you, my brother?
Man, you know I'm doing well, my brother. I'm doing well. How are you doing, man? I want to say thank you so much. I had fun with your backpack drive just to catch up with that.
Oh, that was fun, man. Fill people in. I had a back to school backpack giveaway. So basically, as you guys know, I've been collecting donations from you guys for about a month, 3 weeks or something. And I take 100% of those donations and I put my own money in it, and we buy school supplies for the kids. First time doing it, so that was pretty cool. And we got close to 100 backpacks that we were able to distribute out to give away for no other reason than we should.
It's our social responsibility.
I think so.
You know,
it's
we
supposed
just have
to be.
to.
It's supposed to be. It's not always is the part that hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
Like people really look at it like it's a huge thing, and they thank me and tell me what it means to them, and I'm very appreciative.
Right.
But to me, it's just plain like this is what we're
That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
You know
it's
what
kind
I
of like
mean?
it's kind of like giving your kids a reward for cleaning their room. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'm like what, or like students. You know, I'm supposed to
Exactly.
give them some kind of rewards just
Right.
for writing a name on that paper or being nice to somebody as
Right.
an incentive.
Exactly.
You
Chris
know?
Rock said, brothers say, I take care of my kids. Like, no shit.
Yeah,
you're supposed to.
Kids.
Like, you don't get a medal for that.
Right,
That's your responsibility.
Yeah.
So, so we've been doing homeless food drives, and we've been doing clothing drive during the winter to give warm clothes to the people on the bottom. I just feel like we're supposed to help the people on the bottom.
Yes.
You're really only good as the people on the bottom.
Right,
So if we
yeah.
bring them up, which kind of helps society as a whole, helps all of us, as well as I need my kids to know that this is part of their life. Like growing up, they're 4 and 5 years old, so they're supposed to know giving, serving others, doing not just for yourself.
Right.
They get enough toys already for
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
And I've
So-
kind of created monsters in that a little bit, where they start expecting something every
Right.
time we go out. So I also got to show them to expect to serve too,
Yes.
and do
Yes,
for
sir.
others, and make it a part of their life
Yes,
growing
sir.
up.
Yes,
So
sir.
I
So-
love that.
So starting today, we always want to give shout outs to our businesses. We always want to give shout out to our master teachers. We give shout outs to Taj Tariq Bey, Abdullah, help me out, Imhotep. We also have Zafania, Toriano, chime in at any time. Cujo. So all of our master teachers out there who are helping us, and I gotta give Jamila too. She's just helping me free myself.
Yeah, shout out to Jamila.
Yes, and the Elevation Conscious group that we have. More information, you can email this at searchingformore@gmail.com. We also want to give a shout out to Zoe Williams and appreciate all his work, and Kevin on the show. We want to give a shout out to our principal out there at our black school, at Margaret Fortune School. Odessa Nayon is a principal out here. Wosay Church, where we have a guest, Imhotep, who I'll introduce in 1 second.
Shout out to Rob with Northgate Clothing. Check it out. I'm actually wearing one of his pieces.
Yes.
Circle 7.
Yes.
You know,
And thank
very
you.
well put together.
And thank you to Rami El Bey.
Yes, for
And
film
Rami
last week.
Salam too but thank you Rami El Bey for coming on. He'll be back again, teaching us some more and breaking down the cosmos to our feet on the ground, because the bottom of our feet is called the soul, and you call the soil, right, is the soil, but you change the word, you got soul in there, and so we got to be soul to soul, and from the cosmos to the Mother Earth. He really broke that down. And as we get started here, I just want to go ahead and introduce something to you guys real quick, because I'm going to go ahead and put this out here. And my brother Imhotep is very familiar with this lesson. And Taj Tariq Bey always tells us what we are, and not adjectives. I have here an adjective here that says black. What is black? And Imhotep, would you put that to one of the cameras over there, and they can read it for themselves? So
They ain't gonna read that.
they ain't gonna read that.
No.
Well, you can. I was gonna do a
I got it.
PowerPoint, but I just wanted to let you know. I want you to check the etymology of the word black. Etymology.com. You're gonna see it's gonna say bleached, to bleach something, or to burn, No, not it's not black when you're burning something. It's giving off light. What's left is black is a carbon. So we tried to get that in there. And I want you to know, I truly feel, and I not feel, but I know that black is bleached and black history is actually white history because it starts in this colony, in this country here. But white history, but the battle here on this field in America, the continent of America, didn't start in America. These are the Punic Wars that are being played out in this land. And we have somebody here who I admire, who I think is a community leader by peace and love. And as I was getting here together, I had to get gas and everything. He came to my house, and I was just like colliding everywhere trying to get organized. And Imhotep just takes his time, walks in, and it's very peaceful. And I just love his peace. And then when you're around him, you could feel the aura of peace of this priest, this king within our community.
Yes.
And he also gave backpacks out. And so I want to introduce Imhotep here, and also I forgot to also other Imhotep over here. Forgive me, I'm new at this.
No introduction needed. I'm gonna be here all the time, so people know who I'm here. But our guest, Brother Imhotep, very excited to have him here in the studio and sharing his time with us, giving us some of the education that he's came across in his well-traveled history. So thank you again for being here.
Give thanks and praise. I'm honored to be here with Nehesu and Imhotep and Jamie, Brother Jamie. Whatever you want to talk about, however you want me to approach it.
Well, we were talking about, we know there's a lot of Clairfield doctrine, the Black Codes, it's been a long history of the attack.
The Papa Bulls.
The Papist Bulls. There's been a long history of an attack upon the melanated people, who I consider the true gypsies, the true Kemetic individuals, the true Israelites, the true all of that. And
well, you know what? I heard this.
So go ahead and break it down for us.
I heard this term once, and it said that the world wears a black belt.
Yeah.
So you you go to Melanesia, you go to India, you go to Australia, and I like this phrase my father says. He says, "Curling the hair, we've been there."
Oh, and that's real talk.
So we're all over it. When we're talking about Hannibal and the Carthaginians or the Carthagins, we have to begin in an area that's now called Palestine, Lebanon, Syria. That's where that group of people came, and they were called the Canaanites. They were called the Sidons. They were called the Phoenicians by various people, and they were really just an extension of the people that came out of the Nile Valley. And as a matter of fact, when you go to Nile Valley, you have to extend all the way up to Syria originally.
Yeah.
So
Syria, all the way up there.
All the way up there. So there's history, there's documentations, there's ruins, there's skeletal remains, etc. That puts us there. We're there in the ancient times, and then as Wayne Chandler has covered in his book Ancient Future, there was a time when people came out of Europe. And these are the people that are referred to as the Indo-Europeans. And so, they went into what's now called Iraq. They went into what's now called Persia. And they went into various places. And so now the people don't look like they did originally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're talking about. So
is Hannibal a Moor?
Hannibal at that time was called a Carthaginian.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about Carthage, which is actually a European version of it's really Carthaginians.
And they are the descendants of the ancient Kemetics, right?
They're ancient Kemetics, but they're also a descendant from the ancient they're also descendants of ancient Canaanites. They are the ancient Canaanites.
Yeah. Okay.
And at some point
Says
in
it
their
more.
history, they
Says it more.
traveled up the Mediterranean and they landed, about 80 people. They landed in a place which is now called present-day Tunisia.
Okay.
And so they were there. Now, Virgil, you know, the historian Virgil, you know, said that, okay, they took, you know, 80 people there and they changed the people into Phoenicians, but it was already people there. So it was a group of black people, African people, Moors, that went from one place to another. You know, it would be just like, you know, a group of African Americans, Moors, 80 people going to China and change the Chinese black.
Gotcha.
Right,
you know,
right.
so
And also we have to keep in mind the Phoenicians were all around the world, right?
they were the mariners. They were the extension of the ancient Kamites. You know, they redesigned the quote unquote alphabet, made it more useful because they were mariners.
In commerce.
And commerce. They were you know, you have pictures of birds and all these things. You can't, and you're trying to take manifest off the ship. You don't have time to, you know. So
you need to draw all of that.
Right.
It's not efficient.
so they created another script,
Yeah.
which was given to the Greeks. A man by the name of Cambyses introduced that to the Greeks,
Right.
which now we have the Greek alphabet. You know, but we wouldn't have that if it wasn't for these people.
And that alphabet, well, you could take that alphabet down into Kemet as well, and it seems like it's a mixture of Babylonian, lack of better words, but just to put a geographical location, it seems like there's a blend of that stuff between the two. Because, for an example, the word for in Babylon is Shemesh for a god, and in Canaanite or Hebrew it's called Shemesh, is also the sun as well. And it's really interesting. I never understood why we have the words like anti-Semitism when we know that if you go look in the Jewish encyclopedia, it will say that Hebrew is a daughter language of the Canaanite language, and they consider the Canaanites necessarily Hamites. So I'm kind of confused in how that is anti-Semitic. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? That's funny.
That's biblical scholarship.
That's funny. I remember watching 60 Minutes back in 1979 or 80, and Sadat was on. And they asked him, they said, "Are you anti-Semitic?" And he had this real strained look on his face. He says, "I am a Semite."
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
How can I be
How can I be anti-Semitic? You know, how can I?
Right.
So one of their chief deities was El, the Canaanites. El was one of their chief deities.
And how far back can we take that L? Does that go back into ancient Babylon, or where could we see some of the first?
I mean, we're talking like 4,000 BC at least. You know, El was there. You know, in those days, it was referring to Saturn. You know, and so many things that we take today have a Saturn origin. The reason why priests wear collars is to symbolize the rings of Saturn.
The wedding rings.
Women wore earrings so that they could listen to Saturn.
Okay.
You know, you wear a wedding ring on your. You know, that's all going back to Saturn.
Saturnalia, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of history that, and you know, and that's where you get words like elite, you know, Elohim,
the plural.
you know, the plural of gods and goddesses. That's what Elohim means. Elders, Temp El. You know, all of those words.
The temple right here.
Right.
Ooh.
And you know, you have two temples.
Yes.
You know, symbolizing Boaz and what's the other one?
Oh, I forgot.
But you know what
Yeah, I do know you're
so
talking
that's
about. Oh my gosh, the blessing and the curses.
so yes, and I mean, you know, even when you look at 9/11, the Twin Towers,
Can't
that's what
remember.
that symbolized. You know,
Wow.
the
duality.
things on the church. So it's you know, left brain, right brain, and these are the temples.
Well, could you when you talk about duality, could you say that I'm Mitzrayim, excuse me, I'm using the Hebrew, but Egypt, Kemet, and Babylon were sister cities because in the Torah and so forth, it does say that they're kind of cousins. And,
Well, it breaks
and
down.
we got to get back to Hannibal, but yeah, could you say
It
that?
breaks down. Okay, the sons of Ham, and you
Right.
know, Cush, Mizraim.
And you're an Egyptian ethologist, so what do you subscribe to that though?
You know, see, I'm not an Egyptologist because Egypt is a science that was used to cover up the truth. You know,
And it's the only study of a culture.
Just think about this. There was never a place in the ancient time called Egypt,
Right,
and there was never a man called Pharaoh.
right.
This is more of the confusion. So
Furthermore, so there's no Chineseologist, there's
Right.
no Americanologist,
Right.
there's only Egyptologists. You had to create a whole area of study of law just so you could
Pull the wool over everybody's eyes.
basically come up with an explanation for anything that they dig up out of the ground that goes against the lie, so to
Yes.
speak. That's my opinion of except for those that are studying the truth or actually there reading the glyphs.
you know, and then the way that the glyphs are read is there's a lot of confusion about
Yes.
that. You know, it's not hieroglyphics. It's Medu Neter,
Yes.
God's language.
Right.
God, you know, hieroglyphics is sort of close because it means sacred carvings,
Yes.
but
It doesn't.
It's
it
Medu
doesn't say Medu
It's
Neter.
missing that netter.
Right.
And that's actually the first word of God I think we kind of discovered. If depends. Some people put Samaria before. I think they're both simultaneously
You know,
developed. I don't know.
Okay, Samaria. That's not a.
It's not the right word.
That's not a proper. So it's just so much confusion. But let's get back to.
Let's get back to Hannibal because we all confused up in here. And we're here to clarify confusion, not add it.
So
ahead,
these
my man.
people left what was Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, and landed in what is now present-day Tunisia. They were masters at commerce. They were rivals with Rome. And there is an interesting history about Rome because their mythology talks about two brothers being suckled by a she-wolf.
Right.
Romulus
Romulus.
and Remus.
Yes.
They had a struggle and a fight, and Romulus was the winner. Remus was the loser. So hence, when you hear the word Uncle Remus, they are simultaneously saying Uncle Loser. So Romulus was the winner, and they were battling for dominance of the Mediterranean region. At one point, Carthage. I'm gonna use the word Carthage, but again, that's not exactly.
And this show kind of is going to be a very general, accessible for all ranges. I know you're a scholar and so forth, so yeah, feel free to use kind of the general terminology. Yeah, because I would
Sure.
like for this to be displayed in classrooms and so forth. And if you see a picture here that you reference into, just go
Okay.
ahead and point to the picture, and my man over there
Okay.
will throw that out on the screen for our
Okay,
viewers.
okay. Let's back up then. Okay, the top picture, right there in the top left-hand corner. These are the Canaanites.
Top
Yeah,
left.
that one
Yeah,
right there.
that one right there. These are the Canaanites.
What's that on your head, Imhotep?
Yeah, right. they're wearing.
A dunce cap?
Yep, they're wearing those. So those are the people. Now, there was a book written by Finkelstein and Silberman entitled "The Bible on Earth," and what they concluded in that book was that we've been over here excavating for 70 years, and we have found no evidence of an Exodus, uh, Solomon was not a world leader, and essentially the Hebrews were part of the Canaanite nation, And so when we go to another picture,
Which one?
if you can minimize it. So okay, that one directly on the bottom, the one over, that one.
Those are
And so these
Yes.
are
Assyrians.
These are the Hebrews. Now
Assyrian text.
look
yes.
at the Assyrians and look at the Hebrews.
Which one's which?
The same people.
Right.
It's the same area.
So if you get a whole bunch of people from, let's see, let's go Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Ghana, and you put them all next to each other in a line, and you dress them in the same clothes, you won't be able to tell the people apart because they're the same people.
Unless you're actually from that region,
And that they speak.
You cannot tell an Igbo from a Hausa from a Yoruba.
Right.
Because they're all Nigerians.
Until they speak.
Until they speak.
Right.
And exactly. So, and then so now go back to that picture again, brother. So these are the people that become the Jews.
Wow.
Yeah, the Yehudi.
So
The Yehudi.
People are upset when they portray black people as Jewish or ancient Hebrew. But here's the this
Jews.
picture is 700 BC. That's the date that they give us. It's probably older.
Yes. Mostly, most likely.
So okay, look at the hair. The hair that we
and also that Jews that stuff is religion, and religion is part of nationality. So when you were talking about putting people together, these were different city states.
Yes,
I would consider them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very good way. So if we minimize again, thank you. That picture just behind it, that one right there.
Oh, this is pretty.
So now this one, this brother on the left, he's Persian. He's Persian, and then and then there's Darius the second, there in the middle.
Notice the beard and the hair. That's
that's a
very
Persian.
coarse.
That's a Persian brother at the top, right? And then and then the Hebrew. I mean, these are all the same people. They're in the same region.
And you can see the Asiatic eyes.
Yes.
There's a picture. I wish I had it, but there's a sister. It was on the cover of National Geographic one year, and it's a sister. She's from the Sudan. Her eyes are more slanted than most Chinese that you see. She's smoking a pipe, coal black, like this brother here on the left.
I like his get up though.
Yeah.
I want to get back to that because I feel like pants and stuff are a little kind of constricting. I like to have some silk and, feel free and flowing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, depending.
I like the ancient stuff.
Depending on what region you go to in the world, people still dress like.
Right.
So I mean, okay. So these are the people that go to Tunisia, and then if you go to Hannibal's actual picture, there, yes.
And you were saying earlier about this picture?
So now, this is a coin of Hannibal, and the reason why many scholars believe that was him is because, he was known to ride a particular kind of elephant. If you look at elephants from Africa, the ear kind of looks like the shape of Africa. If you look at ears of an elephant from India, they kind of look like the Indian subcontinent. And Hannibal was said to hit the one that he rode was an Indian one. So here,
that's an Indian elephant, definitely.
So there's an Indian elephant there. So this is a coin of Hannibal. He has the Africoid features that Dr. Ivan van Sertima, I believe, and Dr. Jope coined. Instead of saying Negroid, they use the word Africoid. He has the broad nose,
full
thick lips, woolly hair, but that is not the only feature. I mean, to
It's the
quote
most diverse
to quote Runoko Rashidi, we go from snow to crow.
Yes,
That's real talk.
everywhere in
So
between.
so and and,
Snow
and,
to
and a
crow.
lot of times it does not have to include any admixture.
Right.
If you look at if you
Right.
look at some of the Twa people, if you look at some of the San people in the Khoisan people in South Africa, their
Right,
their
it's color shades.
complexion ranges. So depending on the region that you go,
Exactly.
some people are very tall. Watusi, some people are diminutive, like the Hutu, not the Pygmies, but the Hutu people, and etc. So we go from snow to crow. Hannibal, we find him swearing an oath to his father that he will be the enemy of Rome.
Why?
Because of the Punic Wars. Carthage lost the first Punic War, and they just went back to Carthage. They lost the island of Sicily, so they just went back to doing their maritime commercial thing in the areas of. You have to include Numidia, and you have to include Carthagins or Carthage, and so we're talking about places like Algeria, Libya, all those places where African people roam. Now the reason why I got on this is because here in Sacramento, it was brought an exhibit came to the Crocker Museum, and it was called From Hannibal to St. Augustine, and I went to that exhibit. And you wouldn't know that black people had anything to do with it at all. It was the pottery. It was other things, but we weren't mentioned. We were scrupulously taken out of the picture. And so I thought, I'm gonna do a class. And there was the head of Black Studies at UC Davis allowed me to do a UC Extension class, and it was
Nice.
and it was 6 weeks. This was in the 90s, and I compiled all this information. So another thing that they say was, black people were not able to go to North Africa because of the Sahara, but then you can find cave drawings in those regions where black people. Black people with sisters that would be good in Sir Mix-a-Lot's video. So I mean, we left we left that on the walls. So there's a lot of misinformation because you have to do this to people that were made that were taken into slavery. You have to justify dehumanizing them.
sir.
So you
Yes,
cannot say that they have this history. You cannot say that they have done these things. You
Doctrine of
cannot think.
discovery.
You cannot say that they have brought us out of the dark ages, etc. So that's why all this mystery. I understand there's a is it National Geographic or PBS? There's a PBS show on Hannibal, and people are upset because they're portraying Hannibal as a black man, but
Oh yeah, I saw that.
but historically
He was.
Accurate.
he was a black man. There's something that I'm missing, and I want to just digress a bit, and I think it's that in the middle. Right there. Yes. So now you can see the evolution of the alphabet.
Right.
Where
And I want to point out something very important on 13 of 14. The 14 is that water. And what they try to do nowadays, they try to make Paleo Hebrew and they mix stuff up. They try to make the Mem water. And the Nun is water. And Nun is Nun.
yes,
And Nun is water.
yes,
So this is accurate.
yes.
You got the accurate one because there's other ones out there. People try to say with the Hebrew and so forth, like M is water. It's not necessarily water because they move the alphabets around. But I just want to interject that because I've done a lot of studies and looking at linguistics and trying to trace words back. and that right there, people won't catch that. I just want to point it out, my man.
You know that's a very good point. I mean, I mean, each little point will take us in a different
Sorry.
direction. No, I just want to, if I can add that,
Yeah.
you know, the noon was what Ptah comes out of to execute, create. So
Yes.
Explain Ptah to the listeners that
okay,
don't know.
Ptah is a Kemetic deity going back at least to 4000 BC, but that's just the traditional Egyptologist,
Right.
you know,
Explanation.
timetable explanation.
Right.
But Ptah is one of the oldest Kemetic deities. And he's always represented in a mummy form because that's actually represented as human beings. Because you know he's always in a mummy form, and that's the way we are in the human body. But when our spirit evolves, then we're able to move our limbs. So it says in the Shabaka stone that Ptah conceived everything in his heart and mind, and through the power of his spoken word, he brought everything into being. The noon is the subatomic particles, the black matter, the dark matter that everything comes out of.
Ashe.
The ether.
The ether.
The ether. And the Akash. The Akash, which is actually holding everything together. You know, now science is acknowledging and telling us that as many stars that we can see in the sky, that's only 10% of the universe. The rest is the dark matter that is holding everything together.
Yes, and what's interesting is the tribe in Africa. I forgot their name. They knew about this dark matter.
The Dogon.
The Dogon knew about this and Sandwave.
And
so I just wanted to.
And the Dogons
beautiful.
are descendants of the ancient Kamite people.
Yes, the gypsies are us as well.
Yes.
And that's very good that you pointed that out, man. That's heavy.
So
Yes.
this is just one, but there are many in Anthony Browder's book. And as we were setting up, I was not able to send that, but I like actually and perhaps you can look that up, Imhotep.
Yeah.
That Anthony Browder actually has a better, you know, how it comes through in terms of you had pulled up
The sister? Is that the right picture?
that wasn't, but that's a good picture as well. But in Anthony Browder's, he shows us in his book the
Yes, I've listened to the brother speak a couple times.
yeah, he actually came to Wose. You know, it was like just a couple of weeks after he had launched his book in '93. He's a great brother.
I want to read something from Stolen Legacy, if I may.
All right.
Page 39, Stolen Legacy by G.M.
Just
James.
go back to the ancient alphabet and you'll find.
And
you had it before.
this says here in the 8th century, the 80 Moors, i.e. natives of Mauritania, invaded Spain. And then they go on to say that the mysteries of Egypt, which the Greeks call Sophia. So they're going into showing that who the Grecians got their information. And on this page it goes in further to I'm not going to read it, but I just want to reiterate who we are, what we've came from, because there are many stones that are here in Americas. They even have glyphs of us in ancient languages. And one of the first
There's one in Australia.
there's one in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And so on page 39 of 40, it just goes to show you on Stolen Legacy who we really are. And it goes from ancient Kemits and Kemetic individuals up to the Moors. The Moors were the last people, according to G.M. James, that were the secret holders of the African culture and sciences, not just Egyptian, because people always think that surrounding the Egypt proper was all of everything. But I think that Egypt was very connected to all of Africa, and there was a great...
Well, see, it begins where the Nile begins. So we're talking Uganda.
I'm even talking all the way into Nigeria and Niger. I mean, I believe.
Well, you know, at one point,
I mean, it was
all of those places were connected, and the
That's what
Sahara,
I'm saying.
and the Sahara wasn't always like that.
Right.
That was an inland sea at one point.
Yeah, okay.
And then as those waters recede, there were different civilizations. That's what Gaddafi did. He drilled down to where the water was and brought it out to water the land in Libya. You know,
And bless his soul,
and
rest in peace,
Algeria
Hashem,
and a
transferred
bunch of
over.
other countries around that area
right.
benefit from that as well.
It's still there. When they go up, you know, and they show satellites, and they're really looking for minerals, but there's water there now. You know,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Did so during that time of Carthage, that was part of Libya, was part of Hannibal's reign as far as
Well, there were various city states
Right.
there.
Mhm.
So Carthage was one, Eutychia was another, Numidia was another, and so those people were related, just like the people when they were in Palestine, Lebanon, Syria,
Okay.
etc.
yeah.
So now Hannibal, getting back to him, he was a master military strategist. 100,000 men, 300 elephants, going into Spain, across the Alps to stand at the gates of Rome for 13 years. So.
Wow.
That was a treacherous journey just to do that. They lost a lot of people. You know, they were encountering barbarous tribes, people throwing, boulders down as they were coming, marching to Rome. They weren't on Rome's side. It was just, wild, barbaric tribes in Europe that was doing that. And they captured them, and he used them for a purpose. So, without going into the details,
It's all good, man.
By the way,
whatever you want details, you want.
By
you
the
want details,
way-
you want. By the way, you just broke the.
if you
He was going there.
if you get this book, this was one of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's.
You got a camera right here, my man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ivan Van Sertima's Journal of African Civilization, and in this it's called Great Black Leaders, Ancient and Modern. So
Yes.
Shaka Zulu, Imhotep, Marcus Garvey, and Hannibal, to name a few. Wayne Chandler wrote the article on Hannibal, and so you go in there and you can find this documentation.
And by the way, we're gonna call, Wayne Chandler is out of the state right now. We're gonna bring this brother in, and we're gonna get schooled again.
Oh, Wayne will school you. So, because he was Dr. Van Sertima's protege, him and Runoko Rashidi, they, and also James Brunston, they were his proteges, and Wayne. My wife says I'm a name dropper, but Wayne is a friend of mine. My kids call him Uncle Wayne.
Oh,
And before my
You introduced him to me too.
before my son, this sounds funny when I say it to me. My son Ra, my oldest son, his name is Rahotep. We call him Ra.
Yes.
Before he was
Powerful
going
name.
to med school, Wayne was actually here in Berkeley. His uncle, who recently passed, has a house in Berkeley, and Wayne was staying there. And it's not too far from my mother-in-law's house, of which my son was visiting her. And so he got to go over to Wayne's house, and they had a great conversation. So
That's beautiful.
I just want to thank Wayne again
Yeah.
over the air.
And it was nice meeting him too, and teaching us qigong and everything.
Right.
I really appreciated him. But I'm gonna have to get back on track, man.
Okay,
Because
all
you
right.
were saying not to get tuned into the details. That's what we're here for, brother. Because you've done your study, you've done your due diligence.
Yes.
So that's what we're here for.
So getting back to
you were
So
talking about the gates.
he captured these people.
he
Yeah,
would
so-
capture these people, and so just before they were getting to Rome, and he called his men, and he put those people that he captured in the center, and he gave them an offer. He said you can fight to the death, you know, or we could just kill you now, you know, and so they fought each other to the death, and what he used that as an example to his men. He said, okay, their backs were against the wall, and you see how they behave. He says, our backs are against the wall. He says, we have Rome before us, and you know, we can't go back through the Alps again. You know, so we must attack and we must fight. And so Rome knew, the Roman generals, they knew he was coming, and they had superior manpower. But what Hannibal did in various battles, he would do strategic things. You know, he would send out, you know, a few scouts, draw the Romans in, and let them win a little bit as they were backing up, and then the large body of his army would come in. Sometimes there was one river, I can't remember the name of the river in Rome, that you know, blood flowed like a river. Roman blood flowed like a river. You know, he defeated Rome's greatest generals one right after the other. And then, you know, he never really captured Rome, but he terrorized Rome for 13 years.
Did he have an opportunity to attack the city, but decided not to?
Yeah, yes. And
that just
yes.
that's just interesting.
So he just rode by it. You know, it was terror. You know, they were afraid of this black man. What did Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet? You know, they were afraid.
Got 10 more minutes.
I got 10 more minutes. Okay. So there was a general in Rome, you know, after this 13-period time, that is called Scipio Africanus.
No.
And so what he decided, he says, okay, Hannibal's got his army here. I'm going to attack Carthage while Hannibal's over here. And so that was a very strategic move. And so Hannibal had to leave his army in Rome. And he had to go to Carthage and kind of whip the people into shape. And so that's what he did. But when he got there, you know,
they were hating on him.
Well, no. Well, they were just, you know, they just kind of like let him do the fighting. We're fat, dumb, and happy over here. You know, they luxury, opulence.
Yeah.
In Carthage.
Kind of like in America or
like
in this
right
continent.
You know, and so he whipped them into shape, and they end up losing to Rome at the Battle of Zema. And so what ended up happening is that, okay, they sued for peace, and so they had to pay this great salary. I mean, this great amount of money. And so Hannibal switched from being a general to a statesman. And he was just as an able statesman. And what the Roman Senate noticed is that, okay, they're getting ready to pay off the debt. And so they were calling it Hannibal must be captured. And so, you know, they went there to fight. And instead of Hannibal submitting to them, he took poison. And Rome laid waste. Carthage sowed salt into, you know, just destroyed it. And then what you see now as the ruins of Carthage, or actually what Rome had done. So a lot of our thing, people say, well, what happened to if black people were so great? Where are their monuments? Where there's, you know, a lot of those things were destroyed.
Like
A lot of those things were destroyed. And one of the important lessons that I get from Hannibal was trying to organize the other city-states, Numidia, Euotia. There's another one that slips my mind. But they sided with Rome.
Yeah, and then
Rome annexed them after they destroyed Carthage.
And that should be a lesson to all you.
That is a great,
Europeans
and that's the last time that the African, the more we have so many names,
Right.
was a world power, and this is going back to 202 BC.
And it's interesting, we're shut out here. It's interesting, though, that Africanus was actually a derogatory term because he was getting his can kicked all over the place. And the word afar, afri, the consonantal root of that means from the dust. So in a way, from my studies, from my understanding, that Africanus and so forth was actually it's actually in the books. There was a nickname that his other generals and other people in the Senate were giving him because he was getting his can kicked all over the place. As far as what I read.
Now this is my understanding of that, and I hate to be contradictory, but
it's all good. Bring it, man.
that word Africanus was used as a person who had conquered. That was just part of his.
But that wasn't his real name.
No, it was not.
Those who gave him that name, it was an insult to him, as far as I understand.
Now, when you talk about the word Africa, and I saw in your library, Egypt Revisited, at the beginning of that book, in the introduction, Van Sertima is writing, and there's a word that he used, Africa, meant birthplace. If you check that,
I love it.
In his Egypt Revisited.
I love it.
And so go back and check that.
Well, Imhotep, we will go back and check that. I really love listening to you talk. I will take every rabbit trail with you and get back on the trail.
Yes.
And we were going to have you back on this trail again.
Well, I'm going to try to come back next week, but I'm a family man. Got to do different things. I'm a minister, and so
we
thank
you for your time.
I'm poured in various directions, but
Yes.
I loved coming here. I'm
Yes,
honored
sir.
to be with all three of you great men, and yes, I received my.
I had to give it to him.
He did.
They didn't fit me. I had a couple of pairs. I had to give it to him.
Yeah, I like these, but you know what? My second son, Kaba, he's such a fashion plate. I might give these to him.
I'm about to get him back. Man.
Yeah, I might give these.
How you gonna give a gift to give somebody else, man?
You know what? It's my.
What kind
It's my son.
I'm only giving you a hard time because I love you, and I could care less because it's always in the spirit and the soul.
Yeah.
And everybody, you have your homework to do to check this out. I want you guys to seriously look at the etymology of black. Take a look at that. Are we black? Are we bleached? Remember, we were 3/5. According to Dred Scott, they have not changed that Supreme Court law that we don't have rights that they need to respect, according to the Supreme Court. And we're black. We didn't label ourselves black. We're not that color. I'm kind of brown. I'm light skinned. I fade like Zartan and G.I. Joe. I kind of fade in and out with the sun. But I really want you to take a look at that. And it's not about fighting over the terminology. Nah, my people. It's about getting our rightful mind back. As you see here, the destruction of who we were and of the greatness that we have. And we just want to properly put ourselves accurately in history because we deserve that place, because that's who we are in Africa, as he said. And I want everybody to take a look at that and take a look at the book that the great black leaders of ancient and modern, Stolen Legacy. And I also want you guys right now to go ahead and Google Citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc., etc., pages 495 and 460. And I want you to look at what the Congress says about us. We're helots, Hellot, like Martin Luther King said. We're tied to the land. We're bound to the land. He was speaking in Mason. That's what the Masonic secret is that this is West Africa. This is the Mexim. This is an extension. This is a part of who you are. So amongst the Hebrew Israelites, amongst the Black Power people, we have to unify in love, because you cannot tell an Assyrian the difference between an Assyrian, an Israelite, an Egyptian, and so forth. And so I want you to look that up, and we're gonna have a last few words. We're gonna have a last few word from Imhotep, our guest, and then our other Imhotep will close us on out. And I just want to say that with love, peace, and freedom. So
Can-
go ahead, let him go, then you'll go.
Well, I actually would love a response from Brother Imhotep in regards to the Bourne Stone and found in Bourne, Massachusetts by Hanno the Navigator. Are you aware of it?
Maybe if you keep going.
So, and I'll be brief. Professor Barry Fell translated this. It's basically a stone measuring 45 inches by 5 inches by 15 inches, bears inscriptions which had always been assumed untranslatable, right? So later on it was translated, proclamation of annexation, do not deface, Hanno takes possession. Later,
First in line. First in time, first in line. T.O.
So this was, scholars later dated this back to 480 to 475 BC. The Greek sources, they report that there was him as a navigator from Carthage, but rather numerous inscriptions we have now found suggest to us that he was not only a navigator, but rather a king of southern Spain with his principal port.
That was
Cadiz.
one of Hannibal's either sons or brothers. We didn't get into Hastable. See, it was Hannibal Barker, Hamilcar Barker, and Hanno Barker. That was either one of his sons or one or his brother. I can't remember. But what I was going to say, and this is what Kaba Kameni, who came to our Marcus Garvey Festival, this is what he said on Sunday, is that they found a skeletal remains of a black woman in San Diego dating 90,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, that's deep. That's beautiful. And we would love to have our brother Toriano on here. He doesn't Skype or do all that stuff, but we will most definitely. There's you can look him up on Facebook. You can find out. You can find him on YouTube.
Google just my 2 cents
Just
on
My 2
YouTube.
Cents.
On YouTube, watch the video, and I haven't found anything that describes the situation any better than that. So.
With that, it's very comprehensive. With that, my boy Jamie Jones over there. What did you think, my boy?
I love it. I've just been sitting here soaking it up, listening. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate this. It's big for a show like us to get some.
This is a great.